Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order our Board of Managers meeting Thursday, August 11th at 1:10. I would like to call our chaplain, Dan Baker, to his opening prayer. How you doing, Dan?
Very good, sir. Thank you. Let us pray together. Lord, we thank you for the many blessings that we have here in our great city and our great county. For those of us that were blessed to be born here, and for all those others that you saved at least a small blessing when they got here as soon as they could. And Lord, we thank you for those that serve in all leadership positions, that try to make the difference in the people's lives that live in this county, in this city, this hospital district. Help us continue to be faithful in all that we do. For those that we know of that work with us or that are close to us that may be sick or hurting in some way today, we pray especially for your blessings of healing and hope and health upon their life. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Amen. We'll stand for our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Y'all happen to see Dave Star Telegram?
Well, any citizens wishing to address our board? Okay, there be none. We will now go to item 4 on our agenda, approval of our minutes of June 9th, 2016, and the July 28th, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Steve Montgomery, second by Dr. DeBose. Approval of minutes for June 9th and June 28th, 2016. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Okay, next item is board chair report and action. I really don't have anything to report out of the board, with the exception of one item. I was privileged and honored and humbled to be invited by Dorothy DeBose and Nikki Sumter to visit, go with them to San Antonio to serve on this board. And Dorothy and Nikki did an outstanding job. One of the pleasantries of that trip was the number of persons who, hospital board members, that were excited about what JPS is doing. That was really great to hear and see. And again, Dorothy and Nikki were just outstanding. Okay. Next, our CEO report, Mr. Irvin.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Very quickly, I want to go over a few items with you. 2 weeks ago, we had the JPS Talent Night. And for those of you who went to that evening, it really is a fun evening. We had 12 people that participated in some really talented folks. And it's a really great way to celebrate life. And we go out and we have fun and we laugh and we joke around. It was a really nice evening. One of your distinguished colleagues, Mr. Fisher, was one of our judges. He did a good job. However, there was a chant from the audience of DuBose, 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 because you weren't there this year, and she was doing all that stuff in San Antonio, so she wasn't judging, but it was a really nice evening, and we'll have that again next year. And I want to encourage y'all to come out and just watch some pure joy from a place that has the challenges that we face every day of what comes in our front door. It's nice to have an evening where it's just pure celebration, and it was a nice time. The other thing I would like to do is introduce to you all, some have met her, but we're really excited to add to our team Tammy Moss. Tammy is right over here. She is a wonderful person, and she is taking Suzanne's part. I'll remind you that Suzanne decided that a husband was more important than JPS. We will accept that. And more important than me. And so she went to Miami to be with her husband, and Tammy has joined us. Tammy has had a wonderful career, and she was at Alcon and Bell Helicopter and done some wonderful things, and we're lucky to have her. She's been a great addition. She has hit the ground running. So it's really nice. And Tammy, I welcome you to JPS, and obviously she'll be working with y'all as board members, but outstanding choice on our part, so I'm happy she's here. Thank you very, very much. A couple other things that we had before I ask Mr. Manius to come up. We have conducted a series of town hall meetings. Town hall meetings are important because it gives us the opportunity to share with our employees some of the things that we're doing, and more importantly, to share the ideas and thoughts and comments of our employees. We just concluded 27 town hall meetings, probably met with about 2,800 to 3,000 employees. Our team did a really good job of managing those, and I'm proud of JR and her team and Mary Ann Roth and all the work that they did. Mary Ann takes all the questions that they have. We put them on the intranet. All questions that came up at a town hall meeting are answered and given information there, and we keep that very topical for folks. We also come out of there with some ideas on objectives to make JPS a better place. Last year we came out with 7 major areas to look at and focus on. We gave updates on those, and we'll do the same out of these sets of town hall meetings of things that employees think that we could improve upon. But the participation by employees was really good, and I was really excited to have those. The team did a really good job. I appreciate them very much.
Mr. Early, just one thing. I got a chance to sit in on one of them that Robert conducted, and I would say to every board member, you might want to just come and sit in the back. I asked him not to introduce me as board member or anything. I just wanted to observe, and his presentation was outstanding. Just making employees feel comfortable to even ask questions and respond. And I just want to compliment you on that. That was
Thank you.
Really
Thank
outstanding.
you. You're very kind. I appreciate that. It's a joy to do. The other thing, before I get to the last item, is when we brought Nydia on, Nydia made some really nice inroads into diversity and inclusion at JPS. We conducted community meetings, we conducted internal meetings, and Nydia was the catalyst for making a lot of things happen. And I think she's done an exceptionally good job. When you are recognized by the community for what you're doing in diversity and what you're doing in the area of inclusion, I think that's the highest compliment, because it's not just the internal self-talking, it's an external self. We were awarded the U.S. Pan-Asian American Chamber of Commerce Diversity and Inclusion Champion Award. And we received this wonderful award that Nydia picked up this afternoon at the chamber banquet that they have, and we'll have that up here for y'all, and we'll post that. But I'm really proud of Nydia and the team. I'm really proud, but I'm most proud of the fact of where JPS is in addressing those issues of diversity and inclusion at all different levels. I think the award is nice, but it's the statement behind the award that means more to me than anything else. So it's nice to be recognized. So Nydia, good job, my dear. You've done wonderful, and I appreciate that very much. But thank you for what you're bringing to the organization, and a wonderful, wonderful gift that we received from the Pan-Asian American Chamber, which is really nice. You're more than welcome. Yeah, let me hold that up one more time. The chair wanted me to make sure that y'all saw that. It has 2 hooks here, and Nydia is going to wear it around for a period of time. It's a little heavy, but she's proud. So if you see Nydia with big neck pain, it's because she's wearing that. But thank you very much. The last thing I'd like to do, if I could, I'd like Mr. Manius to come forward. And you all remember from our planning committee that Mr. Manius made a brief presentation on where we were in the RFP process and looking about what the county is doing to partner with us and help us deal with the future of JPS and where we're going from facility standpoint, building standpoint, care standpoint, and what JPS can do to be the best stewards of our tax dollars, and most importantly, what we can do to enhance the care that our patients receive at JPS. So, Mr. Manius, if you'd give us an update as to that process and where we are, I'd appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, this will be very, very brief. As you know, the county, through the Commissioner's Court, is beginning this initiative in partnership with the JPS board, senior management. Just a few dates. On May 9th, we had a pre-bid conference. And what this was a pre-bid conference for the first element of the possibly 3 RFPs that we were going to the Strategic Facilities Utilization Plan for the hospital. Interestingly, there were over 40 different companies that attended that pre-bid conference. Individuals that are representing those companies. So one of those situations where that we had, I thought, a large representation of the industry that we were looking at to come in. On June 6th, we actually received RFP responses from eight different companies. 6 of those were RFPs that basically were in response to which is not unusual in our business. On July 19th, and we took those to Commissioner's Court. We actually, between that time that we received those and the time we took it to court, we had staff from JPS and our staff go through those 6 responses and narrowed them down to 2. And there were oral presentations made to the Commissioner's Court on July 19th. The court then came back on August 2nd and selected Health Management Associates. I think that some of you may be familiar with that organization. It's a national organization. It's been one that has a tremendous amount of experience in this particular RFP request, and the court authorized us to go ahead and to begin final negotiations on a contract. So right now we've met with them, looked at their contract that they have presented to us. We've made some modifications, and we are now in best and final offer negotiations with them. I think we're going to be in a contract within 2 to 3 weeks. That's the timeline on that was about 6 months to perform their tasks, and obviously we'll be working with Mr. Early and his staff and to make sure that the contracts and the timelines and everything also fits well within the hospital district's timelines. So we're pretty excited about it. The phase 2, the second RFP, we have a draft of that already. We have vetted it with your staff. We're going to look at it and ask maybe 1 or 2 other individuals to look at the scope to make sure that we're on target with that. And hopefully that RFP will go out within the next 6 to 8 weeks. And with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
I also want to thank Scott Royal and Marianne for the strategic element that she brings to it, and Scott from the planning standpoint. We'll continue, Mr. Petty, to keep the planning committee up to date. We'll have periodic comments and remarks at the planning committee, and we'll keep you all informed that way through the board, but we'll also be happy to make additional presentations to the board and include board members on updates as needed and participation as needed.
Right. Remember that there's going to be a Citizens Blue Ribbon Committee that's going to be created, and we're going to be asking the board to appoint 2 ex officios to that particular committee. The Commissioner's Court is going to appoint 2 ex officios, members of our court, and we're going to ask you to appoint 2 members of this board to be ex officios. We're also in the process working with your staff to create a website where all of this information will reside, and we'll be more than happy to come back to the board as soon as we start to receive reports from this initial RFP, not the final report, but the preliminary reports. We want to make sure that you all see those and have input into them also. So we're just beginning this process.
I just want to just comment that I got a chance to look at their packet and qualifications, and 3 of the counties that they work with, I'm familiar with and have seen done in those county hospitals that they work with, San Francisco, Contra Costa, and Alameda County.
They were also part of the lead team that worked with Dallas County when Parkland went through their process. So they have the experience there. And just one further comment, and then I'll step down. I thought one of the strengths that they brought was that they have, as part of their team, is the ex-deputy commissioner of Health and Human Services for the state that was directly responsible for Medicaid and 1115 waiver issues. So I think that expertise is going to help us also.
Dorothy, I also wanted to thank you for being at the presentation that the vendors made, so you could hear that presentation and listen to those comments. I think you all picked a good firm, and we look forward to working with them. I think it will go well.
Thank you, GK.
That was easy, quite frankly. Normally, it's not that easy when I come to your board.
If you say that, we can have you back at the mic.
Actually, I'm going to probably get my stuff and leave.
Yeah, I'm encouraging you. The last thing, Mr. Chair, that I would say is that it is definitely in your report. So maybe I should just wait, Mr. Powell, to your report. I'll leave that comments to you. I have no desire to steal any thunder from a board member.
Well, you set me up. I sure hope I say it. Or we're on the same.
If you don't, I'm there for you.
Good, thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, next on our agenda is a claim of physician group report. The chair of a claim executive committee, the chair, Charlie Powell.
Mr. Emerson, may I just interrupt for half a second just to say thanks to all the folks from this board. On behalf of me and my family, we very much appreciate
You bet.
what was done for us. We've been on the wrong side of the medical circuit in the last month or two, and we're looking to get out of that. But on behalf of me and my wife, I appreciate it.
You're more than welcome.
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman, I'm now happy to give a quick update. And again,
James is in the back. You see him? Okay.
the comment I will tell my learned colleagues is you need to learn is the chair of the acclaimed executive committee is by bylaw the vice chair of this board. So let me assure you, read every bit of the fine print on everything you see on the portal, or you'll be serving in a different capacity. Now, it's indeed a pleasure for me to be here. And, you know, I haven't really done very much. Ralph also serves on that exec committee also. We, I guess, had our first organizational meeting back in October, but really the true functions and the work began about January. I will just say this, and I think Ralph would agree. We thank the staff. We thank everyone else. The process has been seems like a lengthy one, but when you consider we started on January the 1st and we were fully operational on May the 1st. And when I say we were fully operational, Claim had its providers and we had a way to bill for those providers. So we were truly functional on May 1st, which was the target date set by the district and by Claim. Everyone knows the Claim was established to maximize the alignment of the physicians with the mission and what we're doing here at JPS and the entire health network. Two things I would like to mention, I made a note of. The professional services agreement was approved between Acclaim and the district. Now that includes the service contracts, and it has a performance compensation metrics in there. In order to prepare that, in order that it be presented to the district, the Board of Managers for approval, there was a committee established. And he's here today, but the chair of that committee was obviously Dr. Chuck Weber, and there were 6 additional physicians who served on that metrics committee, one of which on this board representation was Dr. Roy Lowry. And we certainly thanked all those doctors previously for their service, Chuck, but thank you, and also Roy, thank you very much for your service. Also, in order to move forward, there had to be, along with a lot of work with staff and with the physicians group and with the board of acclaim, there had to be a central verification office. And I know that Christina Gray Peterson led that, and I'm happy to report that they have now credentialed 400 providers for managed care contracts and hospital privileges. So they have been busy because they have to do that separate through acclaim, and they have been very busy in getting all those individuals credentialed through that process. They now are going to get the opportunity to transition approximately 180 UNT Health Science Center physicians coming over. So a lot of work being done. As we go down through the list of things been accomplished, there's been various other committees. There's a physician engagement committee. There's all kind of administrative committees. So again, I kind of have a broad brush say thank you to a lot of people that served on those things, which kind of brings me now to the exciting thing. Obviously, we have been looking for a physician president for acclaim, and many of you obviously may have heard of that selection, but there was a physician president selection committee. Dr. Alan Podowitz chaired that committee. I know that Dal Tucker, Dal's here, who was also very, very involved from the HR of acclaim. But they had 7 additional members of that committee, and the representation from the board, he's not here today, was D.T. Wynn, and I've talked to D.T., appreciate the service he gave to that committee, and also G.K., in addition to your performance, you served on that committee here today, and thank you very much for your service, which brings us to the, I guess, the official announcement. I think we're very excited to say that based upon the recommendation from that physician's president selection committee, they recommended to the acclaim executive committee, and that has now all been finalized. And I'm happy to say that Dr. James Johnson has been named the acclaim's physician president. So, and I think all of us know, I don't have to read his resume. I think there was something went out across the hospital portal, JR, and I know there's been news articles. We know he brings an outstanding career in medicine. We know of his service in the military, everything from Operation Enduring Freedom to Baghdad, and he was even involved in Hurricane Katrina evacuations. We know he's been an anesthesiologist through Sheridan here since 10, and also obviously as he accepts this new position, Dr. Johnson's had to step down from chair of the Department of Anesthesiology and as president of the JPS medical staff to assume his new position. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to say there's been a lot of work happening since January that we're fully operational. I'm happy to say that, again, is there some things as we've had to work through them? Certainly, but everybody's been very supportive and very positive. And I think, Robert, I'd only ask you, I don't know if I covered where you were going, but I think there's been a really strong working relationship with the claim, with the district, and as we move forward now, I see hopefully nothing but positive things forthcoming. So, Mr. Chairman, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, I'll make sure, Robert, I cover them.
Oh, no, okay.
Okay.
That's perfect. I could not add a thing. Thank you.
Well, anyway. You did, Dorothy, that's right. Thank you. DT was out of town once, and we asked Dorothy to stand in that regard. Thank you for doing that, Dorothy. So, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions of Charlie? Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Charlie, for your leadership on that.
Thank you.
Dr. Johnson, thank you for accepting the position.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It is an honor. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Johnson, I didn't know he'd sneaked in the back of the room back there. Thank you. That's my report.
Since
And DT?
Mr. Wynn got here, would you like to start again?
DT, I was thanking you for serving on the physician selection committee, but now that we've introduced Dr. Johnson, I think that's my report, Chairman.
Thank you. Next, item 8, Wayne Young, partial hospitalization update.
Mr. Chairman, this is what we have done on a regular basis now for the community and for you as board members to give you updates on different aspects of the health network. We've focused everything from our plan ops team to our nursing team. This is an effort to keep not only you as board members informed, but to give the community an idea of some of the things that go on at JPS and some of the attributes that we have, some of the challenges we have, opportunities that we have. So as you all know, Mr. Young serves as our leader for our behavioral and psychiatric services. He does an excellent job. In addition to that, he heads up and monitors our district projects, our 1115 waiver projects. And this is designed today to give you all, as board members, an idea of what we do in some of our more challenging areas. JPS is well known for being level 1 trauma. We understand that. But the flip side of that is that continuous care that our behavioral and psychiatric patient base need. And I will say publicly and I will say privately that Wayne Young is an excellent leader and does an excellent job, recognized throughout the nation, and we're lucky to have him. So, Wayne, with that, don't let us down.
He's got a thing about building these things up, doesn't he? Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you this afternoon about our partial hospitalization program. It was included in your packet. The first slide was just a little bit of an overview as a reminder to the commitment that this board has made to behavioral health services. I promise you there are many counties in our state that would happily trade whatever system of care they have for this behavioral health system. It doesn't always do everything we'd like for it to do, but it certainly is a strong commitment from this board and this organization, and the community benefits tremendously because of it. The small piece that I was asked to talk about today of that was the partial hospitalization program, and I know there have been a couple of board meetings where questions came up. In fact, I'd like to acknowledge Sharon Clark. I think she did the most capable job of describing a PHP program that I've ever heard a CFO do. So, but I think the idea was that perhaps there might be a little bit more dialogue and discussion and an opportunity to go into it a little bit more. I wanted to start with the point that this is truly an alternative to hospitalization for patients with serious psychiatric and mental illness. This is not a low acuity kind of service. It's one that did start as a district project. So this came about as a part of the waiver efforts. Over the course of the last 2.5, 3 years, we've actually opened 4 partial hospitalization programs, but every patient that's admitted into those is first evaluated by a physician who not only writes an order, but actually has to complete an attestation statement, attesting that if this patient were not in partial hospitalization, that they would require inpatient hospital care. So for every patient you hear about and we talk about today that's in this partial setting, we are offsetting some level of demand for inpatient services by offering this level of care. Partial hospitalization program is an intensive, structured clinical service. It is designed to be much more rigorous and engaging than what your traditional hour or two of counseling might be if you were just doing regular traditional outpatient supportive therapies. A patient actually resides at home. They spend the night at home, eat dinner with their families, but come in the morning and spend all day with us at the partial hospitalization program until about 3:30 in the afternoon, at which point we wrap up the group, wrap up the day, and they go back home and spend time with their families. So it is very intensive. They come 5 days a week. It's Monday through Friday, and typically most people will stay a couple of weeks in that level of care. In all 4 of our partial hospitalization programs, we also have coupled with it an intensive outpatient program. We leverage some of the same groups and some of the staff to be able to offer an intensive but slightly less so service for those people who are in intensive outpatient. And that program is more of like 2 to 3 hours a day for 3 days a week, as opposed to all day for 5 days a week. It's not uncommon for someone to start off in the inpatient setting, step down to partial hospitalization, spend a week or 2 there with us, and then step down further and spend a couple more weeks with us in intensive outpatient. So that there's not that abrupt, you go from kind of a really controlled, safe, secure environment with 24/7 care to we will see you in a week, for a medication management visit. It's much more of a slow, gradual step down and decreasing in care over time. A couple of the benefits of partial hospitalization, as I mentioned, it gives some of the benefits of both. It has the structure and intensity of inpatient with the flexibility and frankly lower cost associated with outpatient care. patients who are not in immediate danger themselves, and often that includes people who have support systems around them who can help ensure they're safe, are able to get the care that they need without having to be away from their families and in a secured environment. It is individualized. It's an intensive treatment process that patients have a lot of benefit from, and it's arranged so that they can still be a part of and engaged in the community. These folks are still interacting with families. They have kids. They go home and make dinner. They get to be a part of a good part of their normal everyday lives. This is what a typical partial hospitalization schedule looks like. So we see new admissions in the morning. There's check-in. There's groups and then breaks throughout the day, and again, it usually wraps up about 3:30 in the afternoon. We have made a few modifications to the schedule so that if someone absolutely had to, we were having a little bit of trouble with 3:30 because some patients who had children that they needed to get picked up from school. So we can make a little bit of accommodation in that afternoon piece for people to still be able to take care of their children and arrange the child care piece that they need. The PHP content is all organized around a recovery concept, and we try and do this consistently across all of the different sites and locations so that there's a bit of cohesiveness and a model, if you will, that serves all the sites, trying to make sure that it's focused on those kinds of themes and focus areas. It's done primarily in group settings. Frankly, it has been found to be much more helpful for it to be done in group because of the peer learning and joint shared learning that happens as people engage with each other as opposed to a traditional expert teaching or giving information. There are also individual and family therapy sessions as a part of that. This is where, so I mentioned there are 4 partial hospitalization programs, but there are 5 dots on this, and the other is because we do have one intensive outpatient program that we started in March that is not aligned particularly with a PHP program, and that's the one that's in Stop 6. And that is an intensive outpatient program that we partner with MHMR of Tarrant County to deliver a dual diagnosis IOP. So the patients that are in that program have a primary mental illness, but also have a co-occurring substance use disorder. And so they receive treatment in that setting with MHMR providing the addiction expertise and programming, and we provide the psychiatric care that's a part of that program. But that's where we have structured locations. The other 4 are PHP and IOP combined sites. One of the things that's interesting, and you've seen some of the numbers, these are unique patients served. Your stats have been looking at visits, but unique people gives it a bit more of a human element. You can see that it has been growing over the last several years. And we are anticipating impacting over 800 individuals in partial hospitalization this year. For FY16, we're looking at an average of 30. I will tell you, for the last 3 months, we've been averaging about between 40 and 43 on most days. So there is a fairly significant increase in that utilization. One of the other things that I think was important, and Robert talks about often, is the importance of validating the outcomes and trying to demonstrate that you're making a difference. So what the next 2 slides will show you is a little bit of that impact. There's some quotes, obviously, from patients there that probably say more of a heart kind of outcome, but we took a look at the psych emergency center visits in the 12 months before. All of those patients that I just described were admitted to PHP. And in that 12-month period in 2015, we had 208 psychiatric emergency center visits from those individuals. In the 12 months after their PHP admission, we had 115, so almost half of the number of emergency room visits for those patients that participated in it. Similarly, the 12 months prior to their participation in PHP, we had 58 inpatient admissions for those patients. And in the 12 months after that, we had 11 for that same group of people. So it's obvious has a huge impact on their ability to find stability and maintain stability in the community. And I think a lot of it is that help and transition, step down, softening of a landing, if you will. So that is an overview of our partial hospitalization services. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have.
On the revenue side, this is all compensated stuff with much more people being served with the same number of efficient work model. And I think other departments besides psychiatry are having recent family experience. I wonder what it takes to stay in a hospital 25 hours anymore. It's just that the outpatient models are what it's all about.
Wayne, I thought you had the number 30 to get to level 30 spots. What does it take what would it take to have a location? What would that location be required to?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
To house the PHP program.
So what does the space look like where we have the programs?
Yeah, if you're gonna do 30, right?
So yeah, so we have 4 locations that serve those average 30. Now, today it's about 40 something.
Okay,
And those locations are, it takes about 2,000 square feet of space built out with a group room, an education room, and some therapy offices. So from an equipment standpoint, we don't have lots of equipment like you typically experience in healthcare. It's more of a group therapeutic kind of setting in those locations. So we have them in Viola Pitts has a partial hospitalization in that lower level down there where the behavioral health clinic is. We have one at the north in an independent behavioral health clinic in Northeast. We have one here at the Hemp Hill and Allen behavioral health location that we have. And then we have one in Arlington at the what was Central Arlington Clinic before, where it consolidated into the medical home. So yeah, on a typical day, we have about 10 patients in there. And there's a little bit of room. 13 is probably our max. Anything over 13, it starts getting difficult to manage a group that size therapeutically. So we have grown fast, but there is still a little bit of room left for us to be able to continue to serve.
you create the groups based on the patients that you receive?
Yes, sir. So there's a whole kind of referral process. The patients come from inpatient, they come from the psych emergency center, they come from our outpatient providers, and many of them come from outpatient providers in the community. MHMR will often send patients. There are a variety of referral sources, both internal and external, that provide patients to go into that program.
Be up front. I'm asking from a selfish spot because I could see trying to offer a site to maybe do that based on what we're trying to do where I am.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's when I asked that.
Yeah, and so it is. It takes about 3 staff members to 3 to 4 staff members to run a site, and then like I said, about 2,000 square feet is what most of our partial hospitalization programs currently operate in.
I mentioned to Wayne, I'll say this real quick. I mentioned to Wayne, there's such a demand and need for mental health, and our church is undertaking that project, and we just had 20 persons. We've been going through a program. We just had 21 persons as of this Friday certified as mental health trainees, and that really interests me to maybe I could go to that next level.
Happy to talk with you.
Yeah, please. Matter of fact, Wayne's going to come be one of our speakers. Okay. Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you, sir.
Wayne?
One-on-one relationship.
Okay. Next, we have our committee reports, item 9. First is the Finance Committee. Steve?
Chairman, I don't have a specific report, but the big news out of finance is that we brought the budget forward. Sharon and her team brought the budget forward last month, and it was quite the demonstration of her abilities as our CFO.
Planning?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did meet, and much of the meeting results are going to be on your agenda today. The Joslin report and Second Amendment is on your agenda. Went through planning. Planning Committee heard a great presentation on that, and this has been a long iteration of a process. I think it's been badly needed for JPS, and I think it's going to be tremendous results for our diabetes patients. So happy to move that forward in the process. We also got a good update regarding Northeast Medical Home. The design phase is underway. We're already beginning now to look at how community involvement space works within that and community involvement program. So a good report from Mr. Rule on that, and I think that's about the size of it.
Item number 3, Dorothy, Human Resources.
The HR committee met on July the 28th, and today we have 2 items for closed session.
Okay. And Quality Committee. Chuck.
We met in July. On the consent agendas, there's a number of policies that will need final approval. We had some reports. One was from Dr. Rosinia, who just gave a Chief Medical Officer update. Another presentation from Laura Barksdale on patient experience. There was a presentation by Dr. Davenport on surgical site infections, an update on falls, and then a central line and urinary tract claudieclapsy report. And what I'd like to share with you is how well these patients are doing based on these quality indicators. We have come along, when I say we, the network has come a long way. They've done a lot of work, and it's very impressive. And I think the folks deserve to be congratulated on what they've done.
We had some good news in quality, didn't we? We went several months without.
We've had months without infections. We've had 0 falls with injuries. I mean, let me just share with you, in general, surgeons are pretty slow to adopt new things. I mean, everything's based on our patient experience, et cetera, and we're sort of hard-headed, as you might imagine. Dr. McReynolds, the chairman of the surgery department, was lucky enough to sit in on a presentation being given by Laura Barksdale. At first, he thought he was going to hear a bunch of stuff.
Be nice.
Stuff. He came away from it an avid believer in what Laura is doing. I was able to sit and visit with a surgical resident that had just interviewed with Laura. Because what Laura does is actually go into the patient's room with the resident or physician, looks and sees what is being done, how the resident, et cetera, presents themselves, and then after that, gives a critique on what she thinks could probably be done a little better. I asked to see the critique, and I thought, this is marvelous. And what she's doing is absolutely beautiful, going down to the level of the residents and whatnot, to teach them how a patient is experiencing what they're doing. So the whole crew, I think it's great. And Dr. Davenport, as my understanding, is the new chairman of anesthesiology. Is that correct?
It is.
So at the next meeting, I'd like to have him be introduced so everybody can put a face to the name. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks for the kind words.
Item 10, there are several items that require board action. First item under board action items is to consider approval of amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement between Tarrant County Hospital District and JPS Health Network and the Jocelyn Diabetes Center, Inc.
Hi. So as Mr. Petty described, we are presenting the approval for the First Amendment to the Jocelyn Diabetes Collaborative Contract. The presentation that was given to the Planning Committee is in your packet. Essentially, phase 2 of Jocelyn's work will center around developing clinical guidelines and protocols for our inpatient teams, training and education of the staff, and then a plan for long-term sustainability and monitoring of some of the quality measures that they put in place. The fees are also already included in the approved budget for this coming year. And that's all we have for your presentation and consideration.
Victoria, do me one favor for the board
Yes.
members who may not know you. If you'll introduce your position and Don's, that would be great.
Okay. My name is Victoria Sanders, and I'm the Executive Director of Specialty Care for Community Health. That means I have everything that's basically not primary care or pediatrics. And this is Dawn Ziegler. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Executive Director of Access and Integration, and I'm an Army vet, and this is what we call in the Army my battle buddy. So
we travel in packs.
Yeah, we work together.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second with the the caveat that everyone be sure you have a cookie before we vote on this diabetes measure. All right, I'm back.
Get him now.
It's been moved by Mr. Trent Petty, second by Mr. Roy Lowry, approval of item on amendment number 1. All in favor?
Aye.
Any disapprovals? No. Motion passed. Item 2.
This is a big step. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Big
Thank you.
step.
Thank you all very much.
Okay. Hi, Mona.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mona's going to talk to us about consider approval of software agreement between Tarrant County Hospital District Health Network and Pascal Metrics as a sole source agreement.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, honorable members of the board. I am Mona Go. I'm the Executive Director of Quality. This is my 6th month here at JPS, and I consider it a great privilege to be able to work with an excellent team, and I know that we are making a big impact to our community. My goal is to speak to you for 3 minutes, maybe lesser if you don't have a lot of questions, and I thank you in advance for your kind consideration. I have to thank Dr. Weber for setting the stage for my request this afternoon. He has done a great job of telling you about the improvements that we have done here at the network in terms of improving patient safety. So this afternoon, I would like to request for the approval of a contract for a risk trigger monitoring system, which will automate our event reporting process for us. The cost is stated in the packet that has been sent previously. And I would like to talk about why is it important for us here at JPS to have an automated process for patient event reporting. Pascal Metrics, since 2007, has been helping hospitals and healthcare systems improve patient safety and manage risk occurrences and reducing healthcare costs. So therefore, for JPS, Pascal brings 4 values. First is to improve our patient safety. Second is to improve our services. And how does it do that? It does that by providing us real-time data using our existing Epic system. So it allows us to learn more about events that are normally not reported using our manual reporting system. The third is to reduce costs. The more that we learn about events, the more we become more attuned to things that we have to be focusing our attention to. It allows for timely improvements and also helps us reduce our complications and cost for mortality and liability. And the fourth most important is we will be ready for a CMS requirement that is asking healthcare organizations to be part of a patient safety organization by January 1st, 2017. So again, JPS is showing that we are really ahead of the curve because the only other healthcare system in Tarrant County that currently has an automated system is Cook Children's Medical Center. So ladies and gentlemen, or lady and gentlemen of the board, it is my great privilege to request for the approval of Pascal Metrics as our risk trigger monitoring system. Thank you.
Oh, there you go. Nice presentation. Move with disapproval.
A comment from Mr. Adams.
Yeah, what I want to advise the board, when you approve this as a sole source, that is one of the exceptions to the bid statute. Something's over 50,000, it has to be bid unless it fits with one of the statutory exceptions. This qualifies as a sole source, so your motion and your vote is to approve this as a sole source contract as well as approve the contract. Okay?
Yes, sir.
A little bit confused when I looked at it. Who is the vendor or?
It's Pascal Metrics, sir.
That's the name of it?
Yes,
and
sir.
They're using Pascal?
Yes, sir.
Proprietary,
Okay.
I guess.
Is this anything that is going to be, anything that's going to be redundant later on when Dr. Rosino is working with project on
PCCI?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's a great question. Pascal metrics will have a focus on adverse patient safety events. So from a technology software standpoint, it's going to meet our needs in terms of making sure that the 90 and 95% patient safety events that are not being reported manually, we will now have a timely system to look at that. For the PCCI, I remember a few months ago it was presented at the Board of Managers Quality. PCCI has a different focus in terms of looking at what's out there in the community. So when you look at the difference, the main difference would be this would be looking at our internal data. PCCI would be looking at outside data and how can we help better improve our services to meet our community needs. An example that PCCI is doing is readmissions. So how can we improve our work here internally and also be able to meet the needs of the community?
And so this one will be driven the potential event for potential avoidance, or is it recognize the pattern and float it up for us?
Yes, sir, that is correct. It will allow us to be more proactive in making our patients safe.
Does it have the capability beyond the HL7?
Beyond what?
The HL7, the clinical record, because it's...
Melinda, if that answer goes any longer, I need you to come to the mic. So, no, I'm not telling you to be quiet. I'm saying you probably need to come to the mic. That did not come out right. Come on.
Point well made, Mr. Early.
Yeah, I didn't mean to make it sound like that.
Yeah. Very good point.
We have the same problem. My other question is that, because there's a lot of stuff. So you look at HL7 or EMR data or both, or because I only see the interface for HL7.
I am sorry, sir. Can you repeat that?
I only see the interface for HL7. Are you interfaced with HL7 and EMR data, or just HL7?
And EMR data, because that will be, well, we'll let the Chief Information Officer answer that.
Yeah, I'm actually very, very excited about this. This is a very unusual product. It was started at Intermountain Healthcare, and years and years and years of evidence have gone into looking at unusual characteristics in the electronic medical record that might give you a clue that something happened with that patient that shouldn't have happened.
Right.
Perhaps over-anesthetized, and I know that would never happen here. But, and we gave them some antidote to correct that. That, we could miss that totally, but this system has been very intricately designed to catch that combination of data within the record and come back and say, gee, you might want to look at this, I wonder what happened. So it's based on a lot of history that they've seen at other really high-quality organizations, and then technically put that together. So yes, the interfaces are more complex than a normal HL7 interface would be. It is, we're going to have to import data out of the EHR in a much more sophisticated way and send it to Pascal, but they've done it before. That is how it works.
Right. So this is the first installment of, because I just want to see the total cost, because the HL7, and then if you're going to do EMR, is that going to be something coming back later on?
Yes. It's the whole cost.
This will be the whole cost,
The whole
sir.
cost,
Yes.
EMR also is
Yes,
fine.
sir. There is a one-time fee of $89,000, which has been included in the approved budget. So the subscription starts in 2017. And as is stated, we will have a 5-year contract.
The one question, if I may, you mentioned $89,000. I was just noticing that allows for up to 8 feeds of data.
Yes.
We anticipate that will cover all of our data shifting to them. The 8 will cover that. We wouldn't need any more.
Not anymore.
Okay, so
Yes,
the
sir.
89,000 should cover all of our data.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Need a motion?
Recommend approval.
Motion by Chuck Weber, second by D.T. Wynn.
Make sure it's the right motion, too.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Right. Motion approval as a sole source agreement and
Approve the agreement.
approval of the contract.
There you go.
Okay.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have one request to make. I know that we just added another software program. We still have Crimson. We have approved several software systems that's supposed to give us some data. Can we finally get a report on what is working? Are we still going to use Crimson? Because each time someone comes to the board, we have approved different systems. And so I'd like to see what systems are being interfaced, how are we using those, and what are our future plans?
What we can do is either at the September board meeting or the October, because September is not too far away, I'd like a little planning to do this. During the presentation that Wayne gave, we can give an update to you as board members of how we're using different software to affect patient outcomes and data collection, and we'll be happy to coalesce all that and bring it to you in a board structure like this for you and for the public.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion stand approved.
Thank you.
Did we make that in 3 minutes?
It wasn't her fault we didn't.
Okay, item 3 on the Roman number 10, consider approval of lease agreement between Tarrant County Hospital District Health Network and Oral and
Maxillofacial.
and MAF. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. We're asking for approval of a new lease for an existing tenant, which Reverend Emerson just mentioned. This is a 5-year lease. Most of you are aware this particular practice is located in the basement of this very building right below us, facing the parking garage. A market study was completed for fair market value, increasing the rents available to the hospital district, and we would request your approval.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Bowles, second by Dr. Chuck Weber. All in favor? Any
Chairman,
opposed?
would you please record me as abstaining on that vote?
Trent Petty abstains. Any opposed? Motion passed.
Great, thank you.
We have one item that you might have gotten notice in reference to. We added it to our agenda the last minute. It's emergency addition to the agenda. If Jamie and Art could come forward. Consider an approval of purchase agreement between a hospital district and Texas Air Systems. We understand that the air in Mr. Early's office went out. Is it?
No. I don't. If the air went out in my office, I don't think they'd be here for an emergency. They would just deal. They maybe get me a fan.
Is that an implication there's hot air in there?
Neil?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, let me, if I could, lead off on this. And there are two components related to an item getting on the board agenda, a public body's agenda. One relates to the Texas Open Meetings Act and whether something can be posted as an emergency item, as this item was. Under the Texas Open Meeting Act, as all of you know, an agenda must be posted within 72 hours of the meeting itself, unless it qualifies as an emergency, and it can be posted within 2 hours of a meeting. This was added to the agenda yesterday and was posted to the board web portal, and each board member was notified that this item would be considered today. When you're dealing with the Open Meetings Act, one of the two components is to qualify as an emergency is it involves an imminent threat to public health and safety, and another one that I think is applicable here involves a reasonably unforeseeable situation. And in discussing this with Jamie and other staff members, it's my opinion this clearly qualifies for that. And therefore was, quote, it met the requirements of the Open Meetings Act. I will tell you, in my over 9 years as general counsel, this is the first time we've ever asked something to be posted as agenda. It's not something we do on a frequent basis. It's not common, but when it's there, it's needed, and I think
Your attention, please.
Jamie will
Code
take.
red. Pavilion 3, west stairwell.
Speaking of
Code red. Pavilion 3, west stairwell. Code red. Pavilion 3, west stairwell.
Now I feel better. We have an official meeting. Can't have that.
It's a code red meeting, okay. So, that's the first component. This is also an item that under normal circumstances would have to be bid because it exceeds the 58,000 threshold of the bid statutes. The bid statutes have also an emergency provision that allows a public body to waive that bidding requirement if it meets an emergency. There's two areas that I believe clearly this meets the emergency definition under the bidding statute, and that's an item to preserve or protect the public safety, health or safety of the residents of Tarrant County, and clearly in this case we had patients and staff involved. And a second component, again, similar to the first, is unforeseen damage to public property, which clearly it would fit within that. So my legal opinion to the staff and to this board is that this qualifies as an emergency under the Texas Open Meetings Act, and it qualifies as an exception under the Texas bidding statutes. Mr. Play, you can lay that out from there.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving us the opportunity to present this emergency. We have a power plant that has 3 chillers. These 3 chillers support 2 buildings, the Health Center for Women and the Tarrant County Public Health Building. It takes 3 chillers to maintain the air conditioning in both of those buildings. One of those chillers went down. As a result, the temperature in both of those buildings started to get warm. We were able to bring in a mobile chiller, a truck-mounted chiller on a flatbed trailer, park it outside of the power plant, and literally plug it into the side of the building. So that's currently in place. We're asking the Board of Managers to approve the agreement with Texas Air Systems to purchase and install a new chiller. So not only that we'll be able to discontinue the temporary solution we have in place, but to replace the inoperable chiller in that power plant.
Questions?
That was done as a function of telephone bids or what? Telephone bids, or how did we select?
Selected a company.
How did you get the price?
Yeah, we actually contacted some of the vendors that we typically do business with and asked them to come out and take a look at it and to provide us with some quotes to see what it would take to get the chiller and do the installation.
We get more than one?
We got more than one. Okay.
And we feel, we are fairly familiar with those vendors because our chillers are old. So unfortunately, some of those numbers are speed dial for us. So we were able to contact 2 of the vendors that we've used in the past, and that's what came to this conclusion.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to thank Jamie and Art, because the question you asked, Trent, I also talked to them prior to the meeting, and really to say that they actually did the process even though it was last minute. We may not have gotten 10, but at least they sought other vendors. But I have one question, and this is really a question for info for everybody. Since this is the month of August and we're going into September, conceivably we could cool off by October. Why didn't we just leave the flatbed temporary unit out there plugged in? What's the cost of that temporary unit?
That temporary unit is costing us just under $20,000 a month to operate.
I just want you to say that.
Yeah.
It's also plugged into the wall on an outside circuit.
It's 40,000 utilized here.
That's a good question.
Those dollars can be allocated here.
Right. I just want the cost effectiveness.
Yeah, we have contingency funds for this kind of stuff.
Oh, yes.
I move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
It's been moved by Steve Montgomery, second by Charlie Powell.
Mr. Chairman, will the general counsel's comments be made part of the minutes?
I would ask that they be.
I would ask
They
that
will.
the
Okay.
general counsel's comments relative to this is not a normal routine. It's truly emergency based
You
upon
bet.
general counsel's determination of the statute, not ours. But
One thing I would say, under both statute, it's up to the discretion of the governing body to determine the emergency. It's not an outside source.
Right.
It's inconsistent with that language in those two statutes.
Your attention, please. Code red, Pavilion 3, west stairwell is all clear.
Anyway.
Your attention, please. Code red, Pavilion 3, west stairwell is all clear.
All of,
Your attention, please. Code red, Pavilion 3, west stairwell is all clear.
all in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Mr. Chair, I would only make note that that announcement only came over when Mr. Adams spoke.
I noticed that. I don't know whether there's anything to that.
I did not ask for that to be placed in the minutes.
However, Mr. Powell was talking, I think, on the last one.
I will say to Jamie and Art, with probably 107-degree heat index outside, I think your actions immediately in getting the temporary, doing everything you could for the patients, I commend you and your staffs on that. And like we say, I think Ralph's already pointed out, utilize the $40,000 temporary, which is not a solution, to go toward this is probably the best utilization of our finances. So thank you.
Time for a
Thank you.
two-minute story? Here's a two-minute story. 1990, right at the beginning of July, there was a heavy rain that flooded and knocked out the electrical system for the operating rooms, the intensive care units, and pretty much most of where patients reside. The Air Force ultimately brought in 3 flatbed trucks with huge air conditioning units and parked them along the side so that we could have air conditioning in the intensive care units. We had no air conditioning in the operating room. For 7 days, we worked night and day, sweating like crazy, only in gowns, and we would go over to the Family Health Clinic, which was a separate 2-story building at that time, because that's where the only air conditioning was. The nurses were having to bag patients on ventilators. It was fairly awful, all things considered. We were supposed to be on divert from the emergency room, but people in cars with guns and knives, etc., don't understand divert. And for 7 days and nights, we literally ran the place 24 hours a day, operating, taking care of patients. And the nurses, the technicians, everybody right from maintenance on up deserved a real round of applause at that time. They're still that good, in my opinion. That's my 2-minute story.
That's what makes JPS JPS.
Yeah, agree.
Item 11, consent agenda. Need a motion to approve our consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second. Second. Moved by Dr. DuBois, second by D.T. Wynn. He raised his hand. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Okay. Next is Mr. Adams, our legal counsel.
I have one item I want to introduce to the board and to staff who are here. Mr. Michael Sankey, who's to my right, he's one of our summer interns that we're pleased to have. Like Dr. Johnson, Michael served in Operation Enduring Freedom in 2006 as a part of the United States Army and serving his country. So, and the Reverend asked me when I introduced him, he says, "Now tell me where you went to undergrad school." And when he said Sam Houston State University, he said, "Well, that's not the right answer." and then he said, and then he has a master's from St. Edward's. Then he got the right answer. He is a 3rd-year student at Texas A&M University School of Law. So he finally got there. Thank you, Michael.
Is that anywhere near Texas Wesleyan?
Yeah, formerly.
Not anymore.
Easy, big fella, easy.
Not anymore.
That's all I have.
Let me do this before we reconvene closed session. Let me ask Trent Petty and Dr. Lowry if you would consider serving as the 2 ex officios on that Blue Ribbon Committee.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's right.
Yes, with Mr. Petty, I would be honored to serve.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, we will now reconvene into executive session pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code.
That's a door PlayStation.
You got the time now, do it, you'll enjoy it.
interesting for
We'll,
sure.
we'll now, convene back into open session. We have two items to address. First of all, privileges. I need a motion to.
Recommend approval of the appointments and reappointments for the medical and advanced practice professional staff.
By golly, I second it.
Trying to be a serious chair. It's been moved and Dr. Chuck Weber and second by Dr. Roy Lowry, for appointments and reappointments. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Okay. Next is Robert Early's contract, and
Move to amend Robert Early's current employment contract as President and Chief Executive Officer of Tarrant County Hospital District as follows. Extend the term of Robert Early's contract for a period of 2 years to begin October 1st, 2016 through September 30th, 2018, and a 3% merit increase for his base salary.
you have a motion.
3%? Yes.
It's been moved by Dorothy, second by Trent Petty.
I vote no.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposes?
No, okay. I vote aye.
Okay. If there be no more further business, we stand adjourned.
Excellent.